Welcome to Releasing Trauma, a Survivor's Podcast. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. I am a survivor of emotional bullying, rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and grief. After losing my husband in 2019, I set off on a new adventure to help other women release their trauma and create a life they can cherish. Each week, I will feature a guest expert or survivor to share their stories, tips, wisdom, and more. The goal is so that you can take away even just the smallest nugget of information you can use in your life right now to make a change, and to remind you that you're not alone. There is life after trauma, and you can move from victim to thriver and create a life you can cherish. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. With me today is Paul Wilson. We are going to be talking about death, divorce, and depression, something that a lot of us know a lot about, unfortunately. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tracy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. You know, Paula, before we get into our topic, I always like to have our guests start off by telling us a little bit about themselves and their story. So why don't you share with us?
Right. Okay. So I'll give you the cliff notes. Death, divorce, and depression. I've been through all three in sort of metaphorically speaking and realistically speaking. I suffered for a long time with clinical depression, so much so that back in 93, I was about that far away from actually ending my life. Long story, really, really short. I'd planned it to a T. Nobody's going to be around the house. I got it all sorted out. I'd done the deed. And then somebody came home 5 hours early. The 911 was called, rushed to hospital. And then I spent the evening howling like a banshee because basically they injected me with something and there was a wave after wave of agony. And I was literally howling like a wolf in cycles. I was actually in the corridor and it's something I'll never forget. From there, I was asked to go to a medical facility for some mental health treatment. And I lasted, I don't know, a couple of days because there were a lot of guys there from prison and they used this place as a kind of a holiday camp because obviously the rules were very relaxed and they could pretty much do what they like. And it was a scary place. And so I decided kind of there and then that I was never, ever, ever going to have another go at taking my life because I just didn't want to go back to that place. And so I didn't. And I found lots of kind of methods and tips and tricks and things to kind of stave off depression. And the way I see it now, my depression is like a period, like a little dot on a page of text, like what we call a full stop here in the UK, at the end of a sentence. And I monitor it. And if it starts to get any larger, then I intervene and take action. And there's lots of things I can do to deal with that. So that's kind of the death and depression. My father died in 2017 and I went down really, really quickly because I couldn't be with him. And initially I thought I was going into a bout of depression because we're never that close. And then I kind of analyzed my feelings and I realized it was actually grief. So this sounds really bizarre, but I was kind of relieved that it was grief and not depression because I'd done so much work on myself not to have to go there again. And it was horrible. It was like depression, but not as bad. So the thoughts weren't about me taking my own life. My thoughts were kind of like, why was I such a horrible son? Why did I not do this? Why did I not do that? So there's lots of guilt, lots of self-hate, lots of swear words and you're useless this, you're useless that. Basically for 2 weeks, I just did not leave my apartment. I did not get out of bed. I just felt really, really, really bad. Felt really awful. And the divorce side of things, I moved out the family home in 2012. I slept on the couch for 2 years before that. And I know a lot of guys like to blame their partner, but no, it was 50-50. You know, we just didn't communicate and I did my best to try and get the communication going, but I gave up. I'll be perfectly blunt. I just gave up because it just wasn't working. And so I moved out of the family home and moved into an apartment, which I've been now on my own for 9 years. I spent 25 years at the Channel Tunnel, which is a system that connects the UK and continental Europe via 3 underground tunnels. 2 rail tunnels and 1 kind of servicing tunnel. I was there for 25 years, really enjoyed it. And then on the exact date of my 25th anniversary, I quit because it was time to have a change and do something different. And I always kind of thought 25 years was a nice round figure, a quarter century in one job, So that was that. And then I spent 2018 having a ball. I did a stand-up comedy course. I took on a personal trainer, lost a lot of weight, put on a lot of muscle, fell back in love with neuroscience and hypnosis and all that kind of good stuff. And I went from becoming a hypnotherapist into a coach. And that's where I am today. And that's my Cliff Notes in about 3.5 minutes. Wow.
Take a deep breath now.
Yeah, that's taking a while. I've never done it that quick before. That was a record.
Yeah, that was pretty fast. So gosh, a lot happened. A lot has gone on for you. First thing, I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad that whoever came home, because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. So
yeah, and ironically, at the time I was really, really upset and angry and frustrated that I wasn't able to kill myself. But now, like you just said, I am so grateful that I didn't, because I wouldn't have done all the amazing things I've done, particularly in the last few years. And I just wouldn't have met the people and had the experiences had I not been around. And yeah, I'm just so glad to be here. And I love life now. It's interesting because to be that close from taking your own life to actually loving life and enjoying life and helping people, it's just a complete 360-degree turnaround.
that's amazing. Let's talk about depression a little bit. You mentioned having some tools and methodologies for that. And I definitely want to get into that, because I think for the majority of trauma survivors, depression is something that we really end up with. I know I'm clinically depressed as well. And I have my own little toolbox that I use, but I definitely want to hear, what you've got in your toolbox.
Okay, the biggest and most important thing is kind of 2 things wrapped into one. First of all, accept that you're struggling with depression. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to other people. It's exactly the same as having a broken leg. The problem that we have with depression is if I've got a physical ailment, like a broken arm or a broken leg, people can see it. Yeah. If I had a black eye because somebody's hit me, people can see the swelling around my eye. But with depression, we can't see. It's like an invisible illness. So you have to accept that you've got it, and then you need to be able to deal with it. The second thing is recognize when it's starting to kick off. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I see my depression as a little black dot, like a period on a piece of text. And do you remember the cartoons when we were kids where the good guy being chased by the bad guy, Wile E. Coyote chasing whoever it is, Meep. And then the hero would put his hand into his pocket, take out an Acme black hole, drop it onto the floor. Bad guy comes along, drops into the hole, disappears. Good guy picks up the black hole, sticks it back in his pocket. That's how I see my depression. And in the early stages, I wasn't able to kind of get to grips. And it would get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it would kind of swallow me up. And I'd fall into this, what I called a rut of depression. And so I figured out a way of dealing with that was to say, okay, black dot, black comedy. Yeah, okay, it's a period. And now I see it. And if it starts to expand, I take action. And there are literally a million things you can do. But the most important one is to accept that it's happening and to take action. Because it's so easy to go, you know what? I'm just depressed. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to sit here and let it take me away again. So all those cliches we all know, going out for a walk, phoning someone, watching something funny. I can't help this. Smile. One of the simplest things I do is I just can't help it. When I smile, I start to laugh, and it's not fake. It's not unnatural. It's just I've kind of hardwired my brain that as soon as I smile, I start to laugh, and all these happy, joyous thoughts come into my brain. The comedy movies I've watched, the fun things I've done, the great people I've met, and they're all kind of hardwired together. Do something physical. It's been proven 1,000 times that if you go to the gym, pick up some weights or do some push-ups or do some sit-ups or go for a walk, go for a swim, play golf, whatever it is, get out and do something physical, because the worst thing you can do, the absolute worst thing, is just to sit there and sit there and sit there, and your head goes down and you start looking at the ground and you start curling up into a ball, and then it just becomes so difficult to get yourself out of that situation. And I know, because I've been there, I've spent weeks on the sofa curled up in a ball. It's not good. So recognize that you're having, let's use the word attack or an episode or whatever you want to call it. Recognize the signs, your own personal signs that you're having an episode, and then deal with it straight away. Don't wait for it to expand like my little black dot. Yeah. Deal with it. Go out and, shout and scream at somebody. Go and punch a tree. Go and do something that's going to change your thoughts, because that's what we need to do. We need to physically change our thoughts, and there's lots of different ways to do that. There's lots of ways to do that don't help, like drinking alcohol doesn't help. You might think, well, I'll just drink and I'll get drunk, but it doesn't help, because it brings you down. It's almost like a depressant, alcohol. Because we think, oh no, it makes me happy and jolly and all the rest of it. No. When you're feeling depressed, alcohol just brings you down. I think alcohol I'm not proving this, but I think it amplifies whatever emotions are going on inside at the moment. So if you're feeling aggressive, you get all punchy. If you're feeling happy, you get all silly. And if you're feeling depressed, it just brings you down lower and lower, really, really super fast. Eating too much food, binge watching, going online and watching porn, all that kind of stuff is a negative way to change your thoughts and your feelings. Play some music, dance around, literally phone a friend, do something that's going to change what's going on up here. And some people could say, no, Paul, I can't do that. The only reason you can't do it is because you've decided you don't want to. Now, okay, if you're in an episode right now and you are in that space, I accept and I understand that it's very, very difficult to get out of that. But what I'm talking about right now is getting to know the parameters, getting to know what your episodes look like, what your depression attacks look like when they're kicking off. Because nobody's depressed all the time. Unless we are in an institution where we can't go to the bathroom. Now that's when when you're struggling with serious. No, when I tried to kill myself, this team called CAMS, which is like an intervention unit, came to talk to me, and they said, you're going to be okay. And I was feeling really shit at the time. And I said, what do you mean? And they explained to me that some people get so depressed that they'll lay on that sofa like I talked about, and they won't even go to the bathroom. They will soil themselves. That's how bad it can get. Yeah. So for those of us that aren't at that stage, and I'm really, really lucky I haven't been there, yeah, we can make the changes that we need to make. Yeah. And another thing this sounds really cruel. It's not meant to be. Let's be sort of straight up here. Don't do it to get attention, because people aren't interested. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. So if you're feeling, oh, woe is me, and I'm depressed and I feel really sad, nobody's interested, because everybody's got their own stuff going on. Now, that's not saying other people are horrible, just that people can't take on board more stuff because they've already got their own stuff to deal with, yeah? So if you're trying to do it because you want to get attention from someone, it's just not going to happen. They're going to go, okay, fair enough, yeah, I understand, but that'll just be a surface level thing, unless it's a parent or someone who's really, really close to you. But even they've got their own stuff going on. We have to think about self-help. When it comes to depression, when it comes to those feelings that bring us down, it's about recognizing when it's kicking off, and that is the absolute best time to take action. Because your brain is still wired to go, okay, yeah, right, I can do something. We're not in that rut. We're not curled up in a ball on the sofa right yet. We're out doing stuff. Somebody might say something to you. You might read something, or you might just have a really, really shitty day. And that's kind of what kicks it off. But recognize that. I hate this word because so many people use it inappropriately, but recognize your triggers, recognize what kicks it off, your depression.
Mhm.
Is it you ask somebody out on a date and they go no, or you're expecting somebody to ask you out on a date and they don't? You're expecting something good to happen in a particular situation and it doesn't happen. There are lots of different ways that can set it off. Yeah. One of mine was that stuff didn't happen or didn't go the way I wanted to, and that's what would set me off. Yeah. I'd try and do something, note that word try, and it just wouldn't come off. It wouldn't happen. And I'd start going in this spiral, oh, you're useless, you're crap, you can't do this, you can't do anything. And then it's just lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. So recognize what sets your depression in motion, and then just build a humongous list of things you can do to fight it off, things that change your mood. Like if you've got a friend who tells the crappiest jokes on the planet, yeah, and you groan every time that person tells you a joke, yeah, even if it's the same joke, phone them. You go, tell me that joke. What? You want me to tell you? You want me to tell you my joke? Yeah, just come on, look, just tell me the joke. Oh, that joke is just so awful. And you start a conversation. And you start a conversation with that person, and it pulls you out. It pulls you away from that feeling of going down in the spiral, going down into the rut. You know, going on to Netflix and watching a happy movie, a funny movie, not something depressing where the dog dies or there's a big scary monster. No, we want happy, we want funny. If you're going to watch TV, make sure that you watch happy comedy stuff. Yeah. There's some stuff you can do at any time. Cut down on the news. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
If you watch the news on TV, if you listen to the news on the radio, if you buy newspapers, stop it. Don't do it. Because we all know that somewhere somebody's been hurt. Somewhere there's a war going on. Somewhere there's people haven't got stuff. Somewhere there's a politician going blah, 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 blah. You know, we know that. We don't need it to be repeated in our heads 15 times a day. So don't watch the news. If you're not exercising right now, you know, talk to your doctor and then get on some kind of exercise regime. Even if it's just walking around the block for 5 minutes, start a regime. If you're not eating right, because it's, again, the connection between bad food and depression has been proven. Yeah. Start looking at just start with small stuff, make some small changes to your diet and then expand on it. Yeah. If you drink, start looking at cutting down. Because drinking, like we've talked about already, Tracy, drinking sucks you into that hole.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't change you in a positive way. It brings you down. It makes you feel crap. And it just brings the mood down. So avoid drink. And if you do any other kind of recreational, non-recreational stuff, yeah, just don't do it. If you need help, get help. But don't put anything artificial into your body because it just brings you down. It brings the mood down. And the last thing we want to do when we feel that spiral of depression opening up is to help it come down. We don't want to help our depression. We want to treat it like an enemy. You know, we want to treat it like something that we don't want.
Right.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Those are some great tips. You know, and especially recognizing when it starts, because a lot of times we don't realize we're depressed until we're in the middle of an episode. So when you can figure out what does that look like, what does that feel like when it begins, then you can catch it early on.
100%, Tracy. And some people can say, well, I don't know. And I disagree. You do know, because there will be... Your depression doesn't come from nowhere. It just doesn't come like, you know, from out of the ether. It happens. Something kickstarts it. Like an old motorbike, you know, you kind of like you twist the throttle and you kick down on the pedal to get it going. Something kicks your depression off. Right. Something starts it. It can be words. It can be a sad song. It can be the things I've already discussed. There's lots of things. make the effort to recognize what it is that gets your depression going, and then be like a radar. You know, we've got radar stations all around the country to detect enemy aircraft coming in. Yeah, have a radar, have a, whatever you want to call it, GPS, has a detection system ready in place, so that as soon as something starts happening, as soon as they play that song, switch it off, find a happy song, or get up, get out of the room and go for a walk around the block, or do the things we talked about. Don't go, oh, there's that really sad song that makes me depressed. I'm just going to turn it up so I can hear it better, and I'm going to sit here and listen to it all the way through. Oh, now I'm really depressed. Don't do that. Seriously, if you are triggered by something like a song, as soon as you hear the first 3 bars, turn the bloody thing off, or get out. If you're in a club or something, get out. If there's a movie or a TV advert or something that comes on that triggers you, turn it off, walk away. Yeah. If there are behaviors of certain people that set you off, if you at all possible, get away from those people. If you're in situations where you've got people that really are toxic, I know it's difficult, but it's not impossible, but get away from those people.
Absolutely. Cut them out of your life.
Yeah. We've only got one. This is not a buy one, get one free. This is not a special offer. This is not a pay $7 now and try it for 30 days. As far as we are aware, we only have this one life. Yeah. And once you recognize that, it changes your perspective, because the only person that can bring you out of your depression is you.
Right.
You can take antidepressants, you can talk to psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists, but when it comes down to it, the only person that can sort ourselves out is us. Yeah. And I'm living proof of that, because I was clinically depressed. I have tried to kill myself 3 times actually in total. I think the first time was I was 12 or 14. But now I know how to deal with it. If I get dark thoughts coming in, bang, I recognize them and I deal with them and I move on. I don't let it get the death grip. I have an Instagram account, and there's a page called something like Nature's a Beast, or it's about how savage nature is. And they show you things like leopards and lions. When they grab an antelope, they generally grab it by the throat and throttle it to death, or break its neck, kind of thing. Yeah. Don't let your depression do that to you. You throttle it right in the first instance. As soon as you recognize it, bam, hit it. Like a boxer in the ring. As soon as you see your opponent come towards you and throw a punch, you either dodge out the way, or you put your hands up so that the punch just hits your arms and not your head. You have to become a tactician, a fighter, and don't let it win. Because it will do. If you let it, it will just come in and go, hey, Paul, you're feeling depressed, aren't you? Yeah. Guess what? I'm going to make it even worse. I'm going to put you on that sofa. I'm going to pin you down, and I'm going to give you depression feels now and make you feel really, really crap. Happy? Oh, thank you, depression. Yeah, I'm feeling really crap now. Don't let it do it. Don't let that happen. And humor is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant thing to use against your depression. It really is. It's almost like an instant hit. Yeah, it's an instant hit against depression. If you feel yourself suddenly getting down, find a funny person, watch a funny clip on TV or YouTube or something, and that will help you straight away change your mood. It's all about changing what's going on inside your head. And if you start feeling those things coming at you, yeah, deal with it. And when I say deal with it, I mean use one of the tools that you've collected. Use one of the things that you know works for you in a positive way, and put it in there so it stops it happening.
That's fantastic advice. And I think that's a great place for us to go ahead and end on is, figure out what it is that works best for you and use it. Just I love that. And I wanted to say, when you were talking about humor, you can't be depressed and laughing at the same time. It doesn't work.
No, it's not physically possible. And another thing, a really, really simple one, is if you just sit up and put your shoulders back and sit erect, you feel better instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, if you sit like I'm sitting now with my back straight and my head up, looking straight ahead, it's impossible for you to feel depressed. You can do your best. If you try this now, just sit up straight and try and feel depressed. You can't do it. It's scientifically impossible to be in this position and feel depressed because it's a power position. It's like you stand up you heard of the Superman pose, yeah?
Yeah.
If you stand up, imagine you're stand up and you've got your cape flying in the background and stand like Superman or Batman, your hands on your hips, legs spread wide, chest out, head straight up, you can't feel depressed like this. It's just not possible. Your body's sending out different signals. Your body's going, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I am confident. Yeah. There's a Professor Amy Cuddy. She does a TED talk on this, and it's on YouTube all over the place. It's well worth looking at that. And she talks about what she calls power poses, and they really, really do work. And again, it's an instant thing you can do. Because now, if you kind of curl up into a ball and put your head down and look down at the ground and start to talk really slowly like this and bend your head right over so it's hard to breathe, then you start to feel crap. You start to feel bad. Whereas if you sit up, and put your head up and look upwards and breathe, you can't feel depressed.
No.
Because your body's going,
Exactly.
I'm a silverback, I'm a superhero. So it's all about changing your physicality and how you're sitting, how your posture is, your breathing, and just do that. Those simple little things we talked about don't cost any money at all. You don't need any kind of prescription for them, and you can do them anywhere at any time, and they will work. I guarantee, because I've used every single one of them. I use them all.
Yeah, same here. I've used quite a few of those. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for coming on, especially from across the pond, and sharing your story with us, and then talking to us about depression a little bit, and some great ways to get yourself out of it before you get into it. I appreciate
My pleasure,
it.
Tracy. My pleasure, absolutely. Listen, if one person does what we've talked about tonight, I'm a happy bunny. Yeah.
There you go. Listeners, as always, I will have Paul's information in the show notes. Head over to releasingtraumapodcast.com, pull up his episode, and all his contact information will be there for you. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you in the next show.